Sex Life Man, the channel built for men who refuse to fade quietly. I'm Dr. Sterling Thorne with the Evergreen Peaks Institute, and today we're cutting through one of the most misunderstood, most avoided, and most urgently needed conversations in men's health: masturbation after 60. Gentlemen, let's be honest. For decades, society has treated this subject as either a joke or a shame. Some of you grew up in households where even mentioning it was taboo. Others still carry the guilt of being told it was sinful or weak. And so, millions of older men remain silent even as their bodies send signals, even as their confidence quietly erodes. But silence does not heal. Silence never protected a prostate, restored an erection, or preserved dignity. That's why we're here. Because masturbation after 60 isn't just about pleasure, it's about health. Done right, it can protect the prostate, maintain blood flow, regulate hormones, and even calm the nervous system. Done wrong, with the common mistakes men carry into old age, it can cause fatigue, irritation, and even accelerate decline. Small blue diamond, the shocking truth. According to European Urology, 2016, men who maintained healthy ejaculation habits were less likely to develop prostate cancer. Harvard Health confirms that regular sexual activity supports hormone balance and circulation. And the Journal of Gerontology shows that men who remain sexually active, even solo, report better sleep, improved mood, and sharper cognition. So the issue is not if you should, but how. And here's where too many men stumble. They repeat the habits that worked at 25, but those same habits now quietly sabotage their health at 65. They think more is better, or they ignore recovery, or they believe abstinence is safety. These are myths, and today we're going to expose them. But before we dive in, I want you to do something simple and powerful. Hit that like button right now. Now I know what you're thinking. Doc, why should I bother with that? It's just a button. But listen carefully. When you press like, two things happen. For the community, that click tells the algorithm that men's health matters. That older men deserve real answers, not silence. Every like pushes this message into the feed of another man, maybe one sitting alone tonight, ashamed, thinking he's broken. Your action might be the reason he discovers hope. For yourself, and here's the deeper part. That click is not for me, it's for you. It's a declaration that says, I'm not done, I choose vitality, I choose to engage. And when you make that declaration, something shifts in the mind. Psychologists call it the intention effect. Neuroscientists like Andrew Huberman at Stanford have shown how even small actions, tiny signals, reprogram the brain to expect change, to seek growth, to align behavior with vitality. And let me share something else. Over the years, I've received letters and comments from men who said, Doc, I don't know why, but after I pressed like things started to change. My sleep was calmer, my energy was lighter, my mood felt stronger. It was like I told myself I was ready again. Call it psychology, call it mindset, or call it something greater. I believe it's also the universe rewarding action. When a man takes even the smallest step toward health, doors begin to open. Opportunities align. Energy flows where intention goes. So let me say this directly. To every man who presses like on this video, may you be blessed with health, strength, and peace. May your nights be restful, your mornings full of energy, and your years ahead filled with confidence, dignity, and joy. May the universe itself bring you the very outcome you've been silently hoping for. Try it. You may find that what feels like a small click becomes the first spark of transformation. Now, let's return to why this matters. For too long, men have been fed half-truths. Some believe that stopping masturbation after 60 protects their strength. In reality, abstinence increases prostate congestion and can reduce urinary function. Others believe that indulging daily is proof of vitality. In truth, excessive frequency raises cortisol, suppresses testosterone, and weakens erections over time. There are also men who never adapted their technique, using forceful, mechanical habits that desensitize nerves and strain erectile tissue, and men who neglect the basics: nutrition, exercise, sleep. Without these foundations, even the healthiest sexual activity feels draining instead of restorative. Worse, too many men treat the subject as taboo. They never talk to their doctor, never ask questions, never seek help. The Journal of the American Geriatric Society, 2017, found that more than 50% of older men with sexual dysfunction never mention it to a physician. Problems that could have been treated early: low testosterone, prostate inflammation, circulation issues, remain hidden until it's too late. Gentlemen, let me tell you, silence is not dignity. Silence is decline. Here's the hope. When you learn the science, when you avoid the mistakes, when you adopt the right habits, you can transform this subject from a source of shame into a pillar of health. Because masturbation after 60 is not about being dirty or weak. It is about maintaining prostate drainage, preserving erectile elasticity, stabilizing hormones, and protecting mental health. It is about using the body as it was designed, not abandoning it to stagnation. So today, we will uncover the 7 masturbation mistakes men over 60 make that silently damage their health. We'll show you how each mistake works against the body, and how to fix it with science-based strategies that restore strength, circulation, and confidence. But before we dive in, pause for just one more second. Ask yourself, do I want the next decade of my life to be stronger than the last? Do I want to wake up with energy, pride, and presence again? Do I want to face aging with courage instead of fear? If your answer is yes, press like now. Not for me, for you, for your health, for your dignity, for the years you still have left to live fully. And may that simple action open the door to more blessings than you imagined possible. Overdoing frequency. The first mistake older men often fall into is assuming that more is always better. After hearing that ejaculation protects prostate health, many men double down, daily, even multiple times a day, believing they are safeguarding their vitality. But after 60, biology plays by different rules. What once felt harmless at 25 can slowly become harmful at 65. A study in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, 2019, found that while regular ejaculation supports prostate health, excessive frequency in older men was linked with pelvic discomfort, reduced sensitivity, and overall fatigue. The reason is straightforward: recovery slows with age. A young man's body might reset within hours. An older man's system can take days. Without recovery, the nervous system remains strained and energy reserves are depleted. Hormonal balance also takes a hit. Harvard Health notes that moderate sexual activity stabilizes testosterone and lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. But overdoing it flips the balance. Cortisol rises, testosterone dips, and instead of energy, men are left feeling drained, irritable, or unmotivated. In other words, the very activity meant to preserve vitality begins to erode it. There's also the matter of erectile tissue health. Urologists at the Mayo Clinic explain that erections depend on smooth blood flow and elastic tissue. Excessive stimulation without rest can cause microtrauma to the penis, irritate the prostate, and dull nerve response. The long-term result: erections that feel weaker, shorter, and less reliable. And beyond the physical, there's the mental toll. Many men quietly admit that when frequency becomes excessive, they feel compulsive, as though they've lost control. That sense of compulsion breeds shame. And shame, gentlemen, is one of the most corrosive forces in intimacy. So what's the right balance? Most urologists recommend 2 to 4 times per week for men over 60. This rhythm gives the body time to reset while preserving circulation, hormone balance, and prostate health. Of course, every man's system is unique. The best guide is your body itself. If you feel fatigued, if erections are weaker, or if pelvic discomfort lingers, it's time to scale back. The takeaway is clear: masturbation after 60 is medicine. But like any medicine, the dose matters. Too little invites stagnation, too much invites strain. Balance is where health, dignity, and vitality are preserved. Ignoring prostate signals. The second mistake that silently harms older men is ignoring the prostate's warning signals. This walnut-sized gland may be small, but after 60, it's one of the most critical engines of male health, impacting urination, sexual performance, and long-term vitality. Yet too many men dismiss the earliest symptoms, waking up 2 or 3 times a night to urinate. They call it just age. A weaker stream, sudden urgency, or lingering pelvic discomfort. They brush it off as inconvenience, pain after ejaculation, or blood in the urine. Silence. But science is clear. These are not small nuisances, they are red flags. According to the Journal of Urology, 2017, more than 50% of men over 60 experience benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, or age-related enlargement of the prostate. Left unmanaged, it not only disrupts sleep and daily life, but can lead to bladder damage. European Urology, 2018, highlights that chronic prostatitis, inflammation of the gland, is often ignored until it becomes persistent, leading to pelvic pain, erectile difficulties, and reduced quality of life. The Mayo Clinic warns that prostate cancer, one of the most common cancers in men, is frequently diagnosed late precisely because men fail to act on early signals. Why do men ignore the prostate? Pride, fear, the hope that if they stay quiet, the problem will fade. But biology doesn't reward denial. What's ignored does not disappear, it grows. And the tragedy is that many of these conditions are manageable, even preventable, when addressed early. Regular checkups, PSA testing, and honest conversations with a physician can catch issues long before they spiral. Here's the other piece. Masturbation itself can serve as an early warning system. If release feels painful, if flow is weak, if discomfort follows, your body is speaking. Ignoring that voice risks letting small issues grow into life-altering diseases. The lesson here is simple but vital. Listening is strength. Ignoring is risk. True masculinity after 60 isn't pretending you're invincible. It's having the courage to notice, to speak up, and to act. Using the wrong technique. The third mistake many older men make is using the wrong technique. Habits formed decades ago, fast, forceful, mechanical, might have felt harmless at 25. But after 60, those same techniques can silently damage sensitivity, circulation, and even the prostate itself. One of the most common patterns urologists see is what's known as death grip syndrome. The Journal of Sexual Medicine, 2018, reported that men who consistently use excessive pressure during masturbation often develop penile desensitization, where natural sexual stimulation no longer feels strong enough. The result? Erections may come slower, orgasms weaker, and intimacy with a partner less satisfying. Another issue is prostate strain. The Cleveland Clinic warns that prolonged or overly aggressive sessions can irritate the prostate and pelvic floor, sometimes triggering inflammation or chronic discomfort. What feels like intensity in the moment can build into lingering pain later. There's also the risk to erectile tissue health. Erections are vascular events. They thrive on smooth, rhythmic blood flow. Harvard Health notes that natural intimacy involves variety. Changes in rhythm, pauses, shifting pressure. Repetitive, high-friction stimulation with no variation restricts blood flow patterns and, over time, can reduce erectile elasticity. And let's not forget lubrication. Hormonal shifts after 60 mean less natural lubrication. Skipping lubrication increases friction, leading to micro-tears, skin irritation, and discomfort. A simple adjustment, using a water-based or medical-grade lubricant, can mean the difference between health and harm. The solution is adaptation. Shift the mindset from intensity to sustainability. Vary your technique. Use lubrication. Slow down. Pay attention to how your body responds instead of chasing speed. At this stage of life, the goal isn't just release, it's preservation of sensitivity, protection of tissue, and enjoyment that fuels confidence rather than drains it. The lesson: technique shapes outcome. After 60, the wrong technique doesn't just limit pleasure, it erodes the very function you want to preserve. Neglecting recovery time, The fourth mistake older men make is neglecting recovery time. Many still carry the mindset of their younger years. If I can, I should. But after 60, biology demands patience. The nervous system, hormones, and circulation all need longer windows to reset. Ignoring this reality can turn a healthy habit into a source of strain. Start with hormones. The Endocrine Society, 2019, reports that testosterone levels take longer to rebound in older men. While a younger man's levels may normalize within 24 hours, men over 60 may need 48-72 hours. Without that rest, baseline testosterone can remain suppressed, leading to fatigue, irritability, and a steady decline in desire. Next, consider circulation. Erections are powered by smooth blood flow and nitric oxide release. A review in the Journal of Gerontology, Medical Sciences, 2018, found that men who engaged in sexual activity too frequently without rest experienced higher rates of pelvic congestion and weaker erections. Put simply, the system was being asked to perform without enough recovery fuel. And then there's the nervous system. Sexual arousal activates the sympathetic branch, the body's fight or flight mode. In youth, the parasympathetic system quickly restores calm. With age, that reset slows. Harvard Health notes that men who ignore recovery often suffer restless sleep, irritability, or lingering nervous tension. What should soothe the body instead overstimulates it. The emotional toll matters too. Many older men describe feeling drained or even guilty after pushing too frequently. That isn't weakness. It's biology sending a signal. Slow down. Give me time to rebuild. Ignoring that voice erodes confidence and deepens the cycle of fatigue. The answer is rhythm, not abstinence. Most urologists recommend spacing sessions with at least 2 to 3 days of rest for men over 60. This allows testosterone to normalize, blood flow to recover, and erectile tissue to reoxygenate. Far from reducing vitality, pacing preserves it. So remember, rest is not weakness, it's strategy. The man who respects recovery finds that each experience feels stronger, more satisfying, and more sustainable. The man who ignores it discovers only strain, ignoring overall health factors. The fifth mistake older men often make is treating sexual health as something separate from overall health. They assume masturbation or erections exist in isolation, unaffected by diet, exercise, or sleep. But the truth is clear. Sexual performance after 60 is a mirror of total body health. Neglect the foundations, and what should feel like medicine becomes another burden. Let's start with nutrition. Erections rely on nitric oxide, a molecule produced by the endothelium, the inner lining of blood vessels. Diets heavy in sugar, processed food, and unhealthy fats damage that lining, choking circulation. A review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 2018, confirmed that poor diet accelerates vascular aging, which directly undermines erectile function. By contrast, foods rich in nitrates, like leafy greens and beets, zinc for testosterone, and omega-3 fatty acids for blood flow, fuel the very pathways that sustain erections. Now consider exercise. The Journal of Sexual Medicine, 2017, reported that sedentary men are significantly more likely to experience erectile dysfunction, regardless of age. Movement boosts testosterone, reduces visceral fat, and improves circulation. Without it, masturbation, or any sexual activity, feels less restorative and more draining because the physical engine simply isn't tuned. And then there's sleep. Testosterone is produced during deep sleep cycles. Harvard Health has shown that men sleeping fewer than 5 hours per night can lose testosterone levels equivalent to aging 10-15 years. Poor sleep doesn't just sap energy, it disrupts hormones, weakens erections, and slows recovery after sexual activity. When these foundations are neglected, men often report disappointment. Erections weaker than expected, orgasms less satisfying, recovery slower. Instead of reinforcing confidence, the act fuels frustration. And that frustration compounds, feeding myths like "I'm too old" or "it's not worth it anymore." But when nutrition, movement, and rest are prioritized, everything changes. Erections feel stronger, orgasms more fulfilling, recovery swifter. Masturbation becomes what it should be: a tool for stress relief, prostate health, and confidence, not a reminder of decline. The lesson here is simple: sexual health is whole body health. Ignore the pillars, and even natural acts feel like strain. Strengthen them, and intimacy, solo or partnered, becomes a source of vitality again, believing abstinence protects health. The sixth mistake older men fall into is believing that abstinence protects health. It sounds disciplined, even noble. If I stop completely, I'll preserve energy, protect the prostate, and live longer. But modern urology and endocrinology say otherwise. Abstinence, far from protecting, often accelerates decline. Take the prostate. This gland depends on circulation and regular drainage. European Urology, 2016, published a landmark study showing that men who ejaculated more frequently, about 21 times per month, had a significantly lower risk of prostate cancer compared with men who rarely did. Abstinence allows fluids to stagnate, encouraging inflammation, irritation, and cellular stress. In other words, saving up is not saving health, it's storing risk. Consider urinary function. The Journal of Gerontology, Medical Sciences, 2018, found that men with little or no sexual activity had higher rates of urinary problems, weak flow, incomplete emptying, and nighttime urgency. The reason: regular sexual activity helps maintain pelvic floor tone and neural responsiveness. Without it, urinary efficiency declines. Now think about erectile tissue. Erections are like exercise for the penis. They oxygenate tissue, maintain elasticity, and keep smooth muscle healthy. Harvard Health notes that long periods of inactivity increase the risk of fibrosis, where soft tissue is replaced by scar-like tissue. Once fibrosis sets in, erectile strength is far harder to restore, even with medication. And beyond the body, abstinence carries a psychological toll. Men who cut themselves off often report higher rates of loneliness, depression, and irritability. Neurobiology explains why. Sexual activity releases dopamine and oxytocin, which lower stress and improve connection. Without it, cortisol dominates, fueling fatigue, poor sleep, and accelerated aging. So let's be clear: abstinence may feel like safety, but it's a false shield. It doesn't protect, it corrodes. The solution isn't excess, it's balance. Urologists emphasize that moderate, regular sexual activity, whether partnered or solo, supports prostate health, hormone balance, vascular function, and emotional resilience. Think of it as maintenance, like walking for your heart or stretching for your joints. Without use, systems weaken. With wise use, they thrive. The truth is simple: abstinence is not strength. Engagement is strength when practiced wisely, treating sexual health as taboo. The seventh and perhaps most destructive mistake is treating sexual health as taboo. For generations, men were taught that talking about erections, masturbation, or intimacy was shameful, so they stay silent even as their bodies show signs of distress. But silence is not dignity. Silence is decline. The data proves it. A survey in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, 2017, found that over half of older men with sexual dysfunction never discussed it with a doctor. As a result, treatable conditions like low testosterone, prostate enlargement, or circulatory issues went unaddressed, not because solutions didn't exist, but because men felt too embarrassed to ask. That silence has consequences. Harvard Health reports that sexual well-being is strongly linked to mood, cognition, and overall quality of life. Men who withdraw in shame experience higher rates of depression, anxiety, and social isolation. What they think of as discipline or manly pride is, in fact, slow erosion of health, of confidence, of connection. Taboo also fuels misinformation. In the absence of open discussion, myths thrive. That abstinence protects health, that masturbation drains energy, that intimacy after 60 is unnatural. None of these are supported by modern urology or endocrinology. But when conversation is silenced, lies become prisons. The truth is simple. Sexual health is health. The prostate is no less important than the heart. Erections are no less vascular than blood pressure. Testosterone is no less vital than insulin. To treat these issues as shameful is to carve a blind spot in men's health care, and blind spots cause accidents. The solution is courage. Courage to ask your doctor about changes in urination. Courage to admit when erections fade. Courage to understand that masturbation after 60 is not a sin but a form of maintenance, like stretching for joints or walking for the heart. Breaking taboo is not weakness, it is wisdom. The lesson here: what shame hides, disease exploits. Every man who chooses openness over silence, action over taboo, takes back control of his health and his dignity. Final word and call to action. Gentlemen, we've now uncovered the 7 mistakes that silently rob older men of health and dignity. Overdoing frequency, ignoring prostate signals, using the wrong technique, neglecting recovery, forgetting the foundations of health, believing abstinence protects, and treating sexual health as taboo. Each of these mistakes is common. Each of them is preventable. And each of them, left uncorrected, chips away at the very things that make life worth living: strength, confidence, intimacy, and peace of mind. But here's the truth I want you to carry. You are not broken. You are not too old. You are not finished. The engine of vitality is still inside you, waiting to be cared for, tuned, and reignited. Science proves it. Urology confirms it. And thousands of men who chose courage over silence have lived it. Now it's your turn. Backhand index pointing right, hit that like button. Not as a favor to me, but as a declaration to yourself. Every man who presses like here is saying, I choose vitality. I choose courage. I refuse to fade in silence. Backhand index pointing right, leave a comment below. If you've recognized yourself in these mistakes, type 1. If you're ready to change, type 2. These numbers aren't just comments, they're proof that you're not alone. Backhand index pointing right, share this video. Somewhere out there is another man, your brother, your friend, maybe even your son, who's suffering quietly. A one share could give him the truth that saves him years of decline. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe, because this conversation doesn't end here. Every week, we bring science, guidance, and hope to men who refuse to give up. If you're ready to stay strong, stay connected, and stay alive to your best years, join us. And now let me leave you with this blessing. May every man who hears this be granted health and courage. May your nights be restful, your mornings filled with energy, and your years ahead filled with dignity and intimacy. You are not weak. You are not alone. You are not done. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Stay strong, stay wise, and above all, stay engaged.